Okay, so we left off yesterday. We learned how to complete the square. So we're going to take it a little bit further now, and we're going to use completing the square to take a quadratic and put it into vertex form. You guys remember what vertex form is? Yeah, vertex form is this. Y equals, generally we see an A out front. Y equals A times x minus h quantity squared plus k, where hk is the vertex, okay? So completing the square actually makes this pretty simple for us. Okay, so we're going to take x squared plus 6x plus 2, and we're going to write it in vertex form. So we're going to do that by completing the square. So the steps are exactly the same. We're just not going to go as far as we normally do. All right? So what's my first step in completing the square for this? Yeah, we need to set it equal to 0 to start, right, so that we can get rid of that c. So we're going to rewrite it as x squared plus 6x plus 2 equals 0. Okay, now what? Now we subtract the 2. We get rid of that old c so that we can find a new c. How do I find a new c? Good. b over 2 quantity squared. What's b? Good. Good. And what are we going to do with that 9? We're going to add it to both sides. Very good. Okay. Now what? Good. We're going to factor this left-hand side. And what does it factor to be? Good. X plus 3 quantity squared. And that equals 7. Now, here's vertex form. I'm pretty close, aren't I? Really only have one more thing I need to do. And that's to move that 7 over. Okay? So, x plus 3 quantity squared minus 7. Does that look like vertex form? All I need is a y equals. And there you have it in vertex form. Okay, so I just complete the square. I just go about halfway. I don't solve it. What do you think? Not bad, right? Not terrible. Okay, so go ahead and try the next one. Okay, I'm going to give you a few minutes to put this into vertex form. So follow the steps you did on the last one. We're going to pause here and give you a few. Okay, what's the first step? Good. Okay, now what? Add the 2, good. And what is it? And what do we get? And what do I do with it? Awesome. Add it to both sides, right, guys? Okay, now what? Now what? Factor that left-hand side. What's it factor to? Good. X minus 5 quantity squared. One more step. Great. Y equals x minus 5 quantity squared minus 27. There's your vertex form. Ready to try the next one? Okay. So the profit P from handmade sweaters depends on the price at which each sweater is sold. The function P equals negative S squared plus 120S minus 2,000 models the monthly profit from sweaters from one custom tailor. What is the maximum monthly profit in dollars determined by the model? What do I want? I'm sorry? Yeah, if we're going to do this by completing the square, we would want a positive S squared. But the question, what is the question asking for? Yeah, the maximum monthly profit. So where would I find that? The vertex, yeah. What part of the vertex would give me my profit? The Y value, the range, right? The the p in this case. So I want to know what my value of p is at my maximum value. I have more than one way to do this, right? I could complete the square and get it in vertex form, or I could graph it, or no, that would give me my solutions, my roots, if I set it equal to 0. Good, I could find the axis of symmetry, right? And then plug it back in to find the profit, so that would work as well. Okay, so I want you guys to choose which way you're going to do it, and go ahead and give it a shot. Now, keep in mind, there's a negative out front. If I'm going to complete the square, can I have a negative there? No, what does my leading coefficient have to be if I'm completing the square? Positive 1. What is it now? So what would I have to do with the negative 1? I'd have to divide everything by a negative 1 before beginning. Okay? So let's look at it using completing the square. Negative s squared plus, you guys are going to have to tell me what that was. P equals negative s squared. Okay, so let's do it using completing the square. Okay, so what's the first thing I'm going to do? Good. Okay. Yeah, we got to get rid of that negative, so we have to divide everything here by a negative 1. But I need you to keep that negative 1 in mind for a little bit later, because a is negative 1. Agreed? Okay. Okay. Good. Move that 2,000 over. We need to make room for our new C. Okay. B over 2 quantity squared. Good. What's B? So this becomes 60 squared. What's 6 times 6? So what's 6D squared? 3,600. Focus. Now what? How? Find the square root of 60, right? So s minus 60 equals 1,600. Sorry, say that again. Yeah, so P equals s minus 60 squared minus 1,600. Now, notice I left a little space, right? There's a reason for that. What was A? Negative 1. So what winds up happening here is we actually have to distribute this through by a negative 1, okay, by that A value. Because if you think about it, the vertex from this original would have been 60 negative 1,600. Can you have a profit of negative $1,600? No, so that doesn't even make sense, okay? So what we have to do is we have to make sure that if there is an A value that we take out, we put it back through, okay? So it's actually negative s minus 60 squared plus 1,600, okay? So essentially at 60 sweaters, I'm making $1,600. And that's my maximum profit. You doing okay? Okay, we're going to switch gears a little bit. And we're going to talk about something called factor by grouping. Factor by grouping is actually pretty simple. It's not difficult. You need a minute? Does everybody have this down? Okay. Okay, so what I need you to think of is whenever you see a polynomial with 4 terms, how many? 4. I need you to think factor by grouping. Okay, so if a polynomial has 4 terms, I need you to think about factor by grouping. So on the next page, I've got this polynomial. How many terms does it have? It has 4 terms. Okay, so here's how we use factor by grouping. And again, it's really simple. All you really have to know how to do is pull out a GCF. Okay, so first step is you're going to take what's there and you're going to break it into groups of 2 with the first half and the second half. Okay, first half and second half. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at each group separately. We're going to look at the first group to start. What's the GCF of that first group? A. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull out a GCF of A. If I pull out a GCF of A, what goes in the parentheses? A plus B. Okay. Okay, now look at the second half. What's the GCF there? C. So what am I going to pull out? And is it going to be positive or negative? You want to make sure that you have that plus C, and then what goes in parentheses? Good. What do you notice? Okay, this will happen every single time. If they're not the same, you've done something wrong. Okay, these always have to be the same for factor by grouping. Got it? Always? Always. Okay, last step. Ready? You take what's sitting out front. You put it in its own little set of parentheses, A plus C. And then you take what they have in common, A plus B. Nope, you just take 1. Okay? So now factored is A plus C times A plus B. And that's it, you're done. What do you think? Yeah, you break it in half. GCF first half, GCF second half. Put together what sits out front, put together what they have in common. And that's it. Now, normally, this one just said to factor. If it said to solve, I would have had an equal 0, right? And then I would have taken each factor and set it equal to 0, and I would have solved. Okay, that's generally how we see them. But this one just wanted us to factor. Okay, so you ready to try another one? Okay. Good? Okay, so this next one is asking you to solve. So you think you could do it on your own? All right, so I'm going to give you a minute. Go ahead and give it a shot, and we'll go over it. Let's talk, guys. Okay, GCF first half. X squared. What goes in the parentheses? Good. GCF second half. 10. What goes in the parentheses? Make sure you have the equal 0 on every step, otherwise it's no longer an equation. Got it? Okay. What sits out front? What you have in common. How many of you did that step correctly? Good. I'm solving, so what do I do? Okay. X squared plus 10 equals 0. How do I solve it? Subtract that 10. And, yeah. What happens when you take the square root of a negative? You got to pull out your I, right? It's imaginary. So this becomes plus and minus radical 10 I. Is the I underneath the radical? No. Plus and minus, okay? And this becomes x equals negative 5. How many solutions do I have? How many solutions do I have? 3. I have positive radical 10i, I have negative radical 10i, and I have negative 5. What's the degree of the polynomial? What's the degree of the polynomial? 3. How many solutions do I have? What's the degree? How many solutions? Do you notice they match? Okay, if the polynomial has a degree of 3, you better have 3 solutions. If it has a degree of 5, you better have 5 solutions. Okay, so your degree will match the number of solutions that you have. That's why with quadratics, generally, the quadratic has a degree of 2, and how many solutions do we generally get? 2. Okay? Get the hang of it? Good, I want you to try one more. I'm not helping you. Use your brains. You can do it. You're big kids. I have faith. Curly brackets, sure. Okay, so go ahead and give it a shot. You'll know what to do. Okay, GCF first half. X squared, what goes to the parentheses? Good, so I know that whatever comes over here has to also be x plus 3, right? So what do I have to factor out? A -4, very good. Very, very good. Okay, I have to pull out a -4 because what goes in the parentheses has to be the same. Okay, so what's out front and what they have in common, right? Now what? Sure. So we get x equals plus or minus 2 and x equals, great. Solutions are -3, -2, and 2. How we do? Awesome. Okay, so whatever homework you weren't able to finish last night because you needed to know how to complete the square to turn into vertex form, you should be able to finish tonight. There's no other homework other than that. You guys won't see me again until Monday, so enjoy your math break. I'll see you Monday.